East will still be dry, but with increasing amounts of cloud. Brighter skies follow that line of rain for Scotland and Northern Ireland, with just a few showers across the Highlands. A fresher feel here. Elsewhere, again, temperatures in the mid to high teens. That line of rain is a weather front which will track southwards during Friday, but then it tends to clear away as we head into the weekend and high pressure moves back in. And this high looks like bringing most of us a fine, bright, dry weekend and signs of things warming up next week.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hi, I'm Andrew Doyle. In a moment, it'll be time for Headliners, where we take you through tomorrow's top news stories with the help of two brilliant comedians. Tonight, that's Sajila Kershi and Eric McElroy. But first, here's the headlines with Tamsin.
Andrew, thank you. Good evening from the GB newsroom. The UK and Japan are set to agree on a new landmark defence agreement when the Prime Minister hosts his Japanese counterpart in London tomorrow. It follows the government's defence and foreign policy review published last year, which announced a tilt towards the Indo-Pacific. Downing Street says the agreement would build on defence and security technology between both nations. Boris Johnson says he's confident he has the right agenda for the country as he faced questions over the cost of living. The Prime Minister insists the UK is better placed than it was during the economic crises of the 80s and 90s. It says the cost of food shops went up 3.5% last month, according to the British Retail Consortium. Boris Johnson says he thinks the future is bright.
The best future for the country is get through the tough patch that we have now, support people in any way that we can. But remember, this is we're now seeing a lot of employment and people in high-wage, high-skilled jobs. That's a much better position to be in than we were in the 1980s or 1990s.
The government says it won't appeal a court decision that it acted unlawfully when it moved patients to care homes during the COVID pandemic. A judicial review last month, launched by families of 2 care home residents who died of the virus, found several policies on moving the elderly into care homes had been introduced unlawfully. It found the government hadn't considered that people without symptoms could spread the virus. The Ukrainian president has asked the UN to help save people trapped in the Azovstal steelworks in Mariupol. President Zelensky's appeal comes as the Russian military claims it will cease attacks and open humanitarian corridors from the steel plant for 3 days from tomorrow, allowing civilians to leave the facility. It's thought hundreds of people are still sheltering in bunkers there. Meanwhile, the UK and EU have released a new set of sanctions against Russia. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss says Russian businesses will be banned from using British accountants in an effort to cut off Russian access to UK services. Whilst European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen says Russian oil supplies will be phased out in 6 months and refined products by the end of the year. The shirt worn by Diego Maradona when he scored 2 of the most famous goals in football history to knock England out of the World Cup has been sold for a record £7.1 million. He wore Argentina's number 10 shirt in the 1986 quarter-final, where he scored 6 minutes into the second half in what would become known as the Hand of God goal. England midfielder Steve Hodge swapped shirts with Maradona after the match. He put it up for auction after it spent 19 years on display at a museum. TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's back to Andrew and headliners.
Thanks, Tamsin. Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle, and joining me tonight I've got comedians Sajeela Kershi and Eric McElroy. Sajeela, how have you? Have you had a good week?
I've had a really good week. So I don't know if you recall, but I was in a Sue Townsend play before last time.
Last week,
yeah. And this week I've been rehearsing for another play called Vitamin D. It's by a very talented writer called Sahir Shah. All female cast again. We've got a fantastic director called Melina. I wish I'd have it all for my Edinburgh shows. Natasha, Sabika, Dia, Regani, Jessica. Yeah, because I've got to get the name checks in. Yeah, and these are my crew now because I'm like working with them, and we've just been doing really intense like rehearsals. R&D is it like so? You research
you're constantly in plays. You're like Judi Dench. This is ridiculous.
I know. I feel like I should. What did you do? A dame. I should be a dame.
You should be a dame. Absolutely.
I should be a dame.
What about you? Have you been doing anything interesting this week, Eric?
I'll never be a dame. I gave it
never
back.
Never say never.
Yeah, that's true. I gave it back to you a long time ago. The last time I was in a play was 1998, Tennessee Williams, where I uttered I did a terrible Southern accent and had said the line, "Ooh, golly Moses."
Well, you've got me convinced. That was beautiful. Anyway, let's make a start by looking at tomorrow's front pages, and we start with the Daily Mail, which leads with the PM saying that the Rwanda plan is at risk from left-wing lawyers as 700 migrants cross the channel in 3 days. Boris Johnson is worried about lawyers who might be blocking his plans. The Daily Telegraph runs with Falklands vets call for Exocet answers. This is Lord Tebbit, who's giving his backing for an inquiry into the missile that sunk HMS Sheffield. Thursday's Independent next, that leads with Johnson faces revolt from grassroots Conservatives. Tory supporters set to stay home amid anger about Partygate, with a picture there of Boris Johnson struggling with some luggage at Southampton Airport. The Guardian has a rather striking image of Diego Maradona and the so-called Hand of God moment. Very dramatic. That's a story about his shirt being sold for £7 million. Seems a bit much. And their lead article there is Tory candidates distance themselves from Johnson. Thursday's Financial Times now, it has Fed ramps up inflation battle with first half-point rate rise since 2000. And also, ports aim to win back millions in costs for white elephant Brexit border posts. Thursday's Times next. We can cope with rising inflation, insists PM. Well, he would say that, wouldn't he? That's as interest rates are set to hit a 13-year high. And finally, we have Thursday's Metro. The Hand of Wad. A rather weak pun there about the sale of Maradona's shirt for a record £7 million. And those are Thursday's headlines. So to kick us off tonight, we have a story about the Rwandan migrant plan. This is from the Daily Mail, Sajeela.
Daily Mail. Right, so 700 migrants cross channel in 3 days, and Boris warns of legal eagles are circling. Basically, Rwanda plan at risk from left-wing lawyers. And I've only just been handed this story, but I mean, what could have possibly gone wrong has gone wrong. People are saying, he's trying to block migrants from coming to the UK on boats. And after he announced, this was announced, 300 more came. So it's not actually deterred them.
Well, this was the big question, because when the Rwanda plan was introduced, people were saying, well, this will definitely stop people because they're going to come in and get shipped away straight away. Yeah. But now, looking at these figures, I mean, what are they saying? 700 in 3 days? That does seem like
I never know whether to believe these figures, because 700... So you see, I think the problem is actually with our relationship with France. Because
that's always been a problem, to be fair.
Yeah, that is the problem. That is the problem. It's negotiate. Stop giving millions to Rwanda, where you're just kind of trying to brush the problem under the carpet, or the migrants under the carpet. It's France. Negotiate with them. They're letting these migrants through, and I think passive-aggressively, deliberately, I do not see these people, and they're just turning a blind eye, right? They're turning a blind eye, and they're letting them get. They're probably supplying the dinghies as well, quite frankly.
This is conspiratorial stuff.
Yeah.
Eric, do you think there's something to this? Do you think there's an issue there with France?
I do agree with her on the French, but I mean, these aren't migrants; these are asylum seekers, and that's who we're dealing with here. People that are legally seeking asylum. They don't have to stop at the first country they go to, because there may be reasons why those countries aren't welcome. Those countries at the moment are full of Ukrainian refugees, and so they are legally going through a process. Now, shipping them off to Rwanda was always going to be dodgy, and there's a number of people who thought that he wanted to announce it. It was hastily put together, and his hope was to have some lefty lawyers come out. I think when the lawyers are against him, they're lefty, and I mean, he's had a lot of lawyers against him.
Okay, but you say that these are all asylum seekers, no economic migrants there. I've heard reports that contradict that. There's a lot of people who are predominantly young men who are coming here. I mean,
they
not
can
that I'm
be
saying
asylum seekers as young men.
Yeah, absolutely. But not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with economic migrants. But is there not the possibility that a lot of people are economic migrants in this situation?
That's what the asylum process should take care of, if it was done expeditiously. And that's the problem that they're having here, is they haven't been able to get through the applications, and that's why they're stocking up. And the next story we're going to talk about is where they're struggling to put people, just not even in Rwanda. So I think the problem is in the processing of people, not necessarily the answer is sending them to a third country.
So, Gila, do you think that there is an issue here, insofar as the Conservatives probably have to do something? Priti Patel is saying that the reason she wants to rehouse people in Rwanda is because this is a way to disincentivise the people traffickers, those who would exploit.
It hasn't worked, has it? And the thing is, it's not going to work, because even before Brexit, I remember going on the Eurostar and seeing migrants literally trying to hold on to the Eurostar to get through. These are desperate people. If you're doing that, if you're going on dinghies that could, and you're taking your small children, that is a desperate situation. So just on a humanity side of things, you need to look at it and think, why are they doing this? And sort the problem maybe further back, rather than sort of, well, they've arrived here, let's chuck them into Rwanda, or as you said, the story that's coming up, and deal with it in that way. And all this kind of the rhetoric we've got around it is what I really, really don't like it. That they're just vile people who are just coming over, taking all the jobs, all the houses, whatever, and that we can't. Just look at the problem. Why are they coming? Where are they coming from?
In terms of that rhetoric, I mean, that's basically the degradation of the whole discourse. You've got the idea that, as you say, there's some very kind of pernicious rhetoric that surrounds this. But by the same token, people who raise concerns about the degree of immigration are often dismissed as being racist or xenophobes. I mean, that's surely not fair either, is it?
No, I think you can have a discussion, but you know who is always absent from these discussions? The migrants themselves, the refugees themselves, the immigrants themselves.
Very interesting. OK, well, let's move on to another story now. This is Thursday's Telegraph. Some rather alarmist language here about a Yorkshire version of Guantanamo Bay. Eric, this is related, isn't it? This is a related story.
Relates very well, because this is another option that's been put into place other than the Rwanda scheme. This is, and it's facing a legal challenge, apparently not from maybe lefty lawyers, but now conservative lawyers, because there's some Tories that are bringing action against their own government.
They're circled by lawyers, aren't they, from all sides?
All sides. It's almost like
it's a terrifying prospect.
A very good plan. It's a migrant camp that they're looking to put, and it's being called Guantanamo on Ooze.
Sounds lovely.
That sounds nice. I mean, it's a great...
Anything on something sounds sweet, doesn't it? Mind you, Guantanamo kind of undermines it a little
bit. Yeah. So this is up. The Home Office intends to put 1,500 asylum seekers in Linton-on-Ouse, which is in North Yorkshire. And so local councillors have said they're trying to turn the town into Guantanamo-on-Ouse. Now, I'm not sure. If I was an asylum seeker, I'm not sure, because I've looked at the average temperature in Guantanamo, 25 degrees. Linton on Ouse, I think it's minus 25 in North Yorkshire.
Yes,
it's not
pretty cold.
I mean, if it were me, I may want to be in Rwanda instead of Linton. I'm not sure how nice it is up there.
Well, I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, this article in particular talks about how the refugees who are housed there, this is an RAF base,
yes,
will be allowed to come and go as they please. There is a roll call at 10 p.m. because obviously you have to keep track of people. Yep. But that doesn't sound like Guantanamo to me. And I worry, now this is a councillor, Darryl Smalley, who has made this name up, this name of Linton on Guantanamo on ooze.
Yep.
Sajila, don't you think that kind of language, you were talking about rhetoric before, doesn't that kind of language raise the
It's
temperature?
horrible. I mean, why not put an aggrave on the E, on the ooze?
So French grammar is your issue.
Oze, and that will sound a little bit more,
Give it a bit of class.
holiday kind of environment rather than Guantanamo. I think that's horrible. It is horrible because the Guantanamo Bay was obviously for criminals, and this is people sort of seeking refuge. And I wonder maybe the problem is because I think there's 500 residents. Is that right? I might have read this wrong because my eyes are terrible. And then 1,500 going in. I can see why the residents might be upset. They may also be upset because I don't blame them. Yorkshire tea is my favourite brew, right? Yorkshire blend. They may be coming for the tea bags, which probably come from the countries that they've just taken their leave from.
You're into your conspiracy theories tonight. I don't think they're targeting this place for tea. I really don't.
I'm just making like that because tea is never actually. It's not from Yorkshire, is it? It's actually.
No, it's from basically anywhere but Yorkshire.
Usually from where the migrants have come from.
Do you worry about this at all, Eric? I mean, I just kind of think when you're making comparison with Guantanamo, where there've been accusations of torture, human rights abuses, we're talking about a town in Yorkshire. This seems really unnecessary, doesn't it?
Well, and it is otherizing the people who are going to be put in this refugee centre.
Right.
And again, it's the same problem they're having why they're resorting to Rwanda. They're spending £4.7 million a day on housing people in hotels because they're not processing them quickly enough.
Yes.
It seems like the money, is it $125 million for the scheme to Rwanda?
Right.
Spend that on the processing and move this along, and either send it back to the people who shouldn't have come to which is the policy that they have to send them back home if there are illegal migrants versus the genuine asylum seekers.
Do you think a lot of this is about the mismanagement of money then? Because, I mean, we talk about all the potentially xenophobic rhetoric, but I think a lot of people are annoyed by the sheer cost to the taxpayer of this.
And the irony is that pre-Brexit, the whole onus of Brexit was like, we're going to stop immigration, keep our borders, and there's actually more immigrants since Brexit. Right. So that's the irony.
Well, let's move on now to Thursday's Times and budget food to fight against inflation.
Yes.
Sajila,
Britain is better off than in the 80s, says Boris Johnson, and he's basically not going to be going into the position of saying that the cost of living crisis can be dealt with by getting cheaper own brand foods, like the own brand. I mean,
this has come, just to be clear, this has come from the Environment Secretary George Eustice, who said, people ought to be encouraged to buy those supermarket value brands. The ones with no frills or labels on it, and they're really bland looking, but actually they're just the same content as
it's the same. It's made by the same company, it's just cheaper packaging.
He's refusing to endorse that idea.
Yeah, because you know what, I kind of get him on that. It's a ridiculous thing to say that that's how we deal with the cost of living prices when people are literally, heat or eat. That's the reality of a lot of people. And, what's the next thing that's going to come out? Like, oh, look, we encourage you all to get the yellow stickers. And then it's just really stupid.
The yellow stickers or freegans, freegans, people who go through the bins outside and take the stuff.
I don't think these people actually know even about these things. That's the thing, is that's out of touch of, with reality of everyday man.
Is this the case, Eric? They're actually sort of misdirecting the true solution to this, which is, about the cost of living crisis itself, not you should buy cheaper sandwiches.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that quote is very much the let them eat cake, but let it be the off-brand cake thing that's going to go down in history of bad quotes from a politician. I mean, the government doesn't. I mean, inflation's a hard thing for any government to fight, especially when there's wars going on and everything else. But I mean, the UK is the only G7 country that is raising taxes in the middle of this, inflationary crisis across, all these Western economies.
Yes.
So, what is their plan other than, hunker down? It's a tough patch.
So why is Boris invoking the 80s? Why is he saying we're better off than when we were in the 80s?
Theresa May.
Oh, I see. I mean,
bring the ghost back.
We don't have to deal with the haircuts of the 80s or Kajagoogoo.
80s is my happy place. Don't be knocking the 80s. I love the 80s. I hate 80s music, 80s films. I love them all.
Longer hair, so you have more money.
Yeah,
You don't get as many haircuts.
Yes, but the hairspray was very prohibitively expensive.
Oh, the hairspray.
You had to use so much of it.
They didn't have sell-by dates then, did they? So we just made
people just took the risk.
Food went further.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, let's move on now. This is Thursday's Times now. And can Sir Keir Starmer shake this hangover from his office beers. Sajida, this doesn't look good, does it?
Office beers.
This is Beergate.
Beergate. Okay, what? Okay, why have I lost this story?
Well, we all know what's happened.
Okay, so the Beergate basically is so Keir Starmer, without looking, this is the guy. So Keir Starmer, we've got the situation where tomorrow is the people are voting, getting out, and Keir Starmer is stuck in this position where a grainy photograph of him having a beer and a curry.
Yes, chicken korma, apparently.
A chicken korma.
Yeah. Let's be specific about the details. It matters.
Yeah, chicken korma. I'm a bit disappointed it's chicken korma because that's not really a proper curry.
It's very Keir Starmer as a curry.
It's very...
the most mild, bland possible curry you could think of.
And
it's not jalfrezi, is it?
That's also his saving grace because he is bland himself. Well, that's probably too harsh. He's a little bit more vanilla than Boris.
It says
this story can actually be. It's not going to get the sort of momentum that yeah.
I mean, that's what they've even said in the article, is that what will save him from this is his own quote-unquote dullness.
So what are you saying here, Eric?
Brilliant thing.
You're actually suggesting that the reason why Keir Starmer will be saved here is that people are not going to believe he's capable of breaking the rules because he's too boring.
I think Keir Starmer has released this. There's now grainy video of this incident as well, just to make him seem a little bit spicier than he was before.
Well, that's what I think. I mean, this kind of makes him more appealing to me. He's a bit of a maverick.
Yeah.
He's capable of, yes, there's the korma, but he's having a beer,
But you see, a korma and a beer is a post-work thing. If I'm working, I want that.
Right.
But however, cake and a suitcase full of champagne, that is not.
So this is the question, isn't it? So with Boris Johnson, this was a social event that had clearly been organised, and there's no getting around that. That's now been admitted. There's been fines, etc. And Keir Starmer's defence is very much, well, no, this was an extension of the working day, and you have to eat, and they had a couple of beers. Well, so what? That's not necessary. If it's not a social event, that's not a problem. But will it be, Eric? Will it be over for him though if Durham police open an investigation? If he does get a fine, because if you recall, Keir Starmer was saying that even Rishi Sunak ought to be fined,
he's had the fine. I mean, he paid the penalty.
But he was pushing for that, even though Sunak was only sort of tangentially involved. It was more like an accident, him turning up at the.
Except for the police found him guilty of needing a fixed penalty notice. So, if Keir Starmer did get a fixed penalty notice, I think the key difference is at this point, then yes, everyone will have had one. It'll be a badge of honour, and B, he's not actually, as far as I understand, the opposition party isn't making the rules that they were breaking. And that is a key difference.
But they were very, very stringent and critical when they saw that the Conservatives were breaking the rules. So doesn't that open up to hypocrisy?
But they are two completely different things. Keir Starmer, as a work thing, I come in here, you might give us a little bit.
I wouldn't give you a beer, Sajid.
I wouldn't give you a beer, but you'd give me feed me. But that is an end of day, that's a norm, right? You're sneaking in crates of champagne, cake, and then all these people. That is a definite, and it's not just once. It's not just a one little misdemeanor. There are so many with Boris Johnson.
But would you feel differently if it were the case that he did get fined? If he were found that this wasn't just the extension of a working day, would you then feel differently about this?
Would I feel differently? I'd just think, OK, well, that's the law has decided. As someone a higher power than myself.
I'm just trying to say it's not partisan.
It's giving my opinion,
Yeah, and politicians shouldn't be breaking the law, basically.
Yeah. So therefore, it is a different situation.
We can't just break the laws that we didn't make. That would be a terrible precedent.
Well, I don't mind that idea. It's kind of fun. I've got some ideas of laws.
Well,
might have a go at.
Now. We've got Thursday's Independent next, and the Independent Press Standards Organisation, IPSO, is rejecting complaints into the now infamous Daily Mail article about Angela Rayner. Eric, you have the details of this one?
Yeah, I mean, in case anybody didn't see this story or didn't see it, whether they read it or not, is that there were some Tory MPs who were quoted anonymously in an article saying that Angela Rayner was tempting Boris Johnson with her legs.
Let's be careful with our language here.
Yes, but in a filmatic way, and
you can say the film imitated Basic Instinct. And I think people know the famous scene.
That's right.
Not the one with the ice pick.
And you can find that out on your own if you don't know it already. The article was lambasted for being misogynistic and sexist and cheap, because I think it was, in my view. But there were 6,000 complaints about the article to IPSO. But apparently the complaints didn't have legs.
Very good.
Bum, bum.
Boom.
You've been waiting for a while to come up with that joke.
We're in 20 minutes in. It's the first joke I've done, I think, ever being on Headliners. But basically, the core of the reason why the objections were rejected is because she's not part of the complaint. And so people complain on her behalf. She's not decided to put the complaint forward, and so it's not going anywhere.
So what about the subsequent revelations, though, the subsequent claims when the Conservative inquiry happened, that she herself was the one who had made the source, in other words,
Yes.
of this implication had come from her. She made a joke about crossing her legs in Parliament.
And I've seen that as well. Now, the issue there in my mind would be if she had made that joke, that she was, because we know Boris has a stray eye anyway, that's still been weaponized against her by these Tory MPs anonymously leaking it to the Daily Mail.
Right.
Because she didn't go to the Daily Mail and put this forward. It was, if she'd made a joke with friends or, colleagues, then they're taking that and then putting that in the papers to make her look bad.
Well, I, for one, am shocked that the tabloids have gone with scandalous and salacious gossip as a news story. Do you think, Sajeela, in all seriousness, is there a problem with sexism in tabloid newspapers? Because this story really did, to a lot of people, 6,000 complaints, as you say, not upheld, however. A lot of people felt this was just the Daily Mail revelling in sexism.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, it still is sexist. And I'm kind of getting tired of women always being the brunt of, like, it's not Boris who's got a roving eye, it's her the evil temptress.
Yeah. Oh, so shifting the blame onto the siren.
Somehow.
Wicked siren.
Yeah, and that just doesn't end, it's just like, it continues, the way that women are described from all spectrums of politics and in every way in the press. It's always onus is on women. You look at any case that's been reported, like obviously the Amber Heard, which is kind of a little bit more, but they love to just beat down a woman.
I mean, there's a constant. Do you remember that article about Theresa May and Nicola Sturgeon in the Mail, which was called Lexit? Never mind Brexit. Yeah. This is Legsit, and it was about the shape of their legs.
I've got that image saved.
As your screensaver. But then, of course, there was a big controversy, and loads of traffic was directed towards the website. At the same time, it feels like there's always going to be a deliberate element to this.
That kind of thing, what you're saying is kind of sex sells even in politics.
Even in politics?
Even in politics, sex sells.
And you wouldn't have thought so, given that politics is the most sexless, dull, anodyne thing possible.
But they
it's not
have
arousing,
a lot
is
of
it? They have what?
Politicians have a lot of sex. A lot more than we're all having on this panel, can I just say?
I prefer not to probe, to be honest. It puts me off my dinner, my chicken korma. Anyway, that's the end of part one, but do stick around for part two, in which we discuss Twitter, the NHS, and whether it's ever acceptable to punch a comedian. That's a subject close to our panellists' hearts. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle, and with me until midnight are the fabulous Sajeela Kershi and the just as fabulous Eric McElroy.
Thank you.
Well, I mean it. We're going to start with Thursday's Metro. This brings us to the latest in the ongoing Madeleine McCann investigation. It's been 15 years Sajila. It looks like with this story there's been a breakthrough. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, this is horrible. So Madeleine McCann breakthrough hope as evidence of child found in chief suspect's van. So they found some evidence that links this depraved, deviant, despicable individual, Christian Bruckner.
Of course, we don't know if he's guilty, which is a bit... We can say he's a despicable individual.
He's
guilty of all sorts of other...
But he has. OK, so let's just start his guilt so far. He raped a 72-year-old woman, a tour rep, and was basically flashing to young toddlers in the Algarve. But they're pretty convinced that they've got their guy.
This is the German police, the German investigation.
It's not forensic evidence, they say, but evidence. And because of the evidence, we are sure that he is the murderer of Madeleine McCann. Now, my fear is that if that is the case, he's been denying his innocence, and of course innocent until proven guilty. Let's let the law take its course, as it were. But if that is the case, he's going to continue to say that he's innocent, and he's going to continue to say that he didn't do it, and therefore Maddie McCann's body will never be found, and we will never find out what happened to her. And most of all, of course, her parents, are going to be left. I think, because I'm feeling it in my gut as a parent, like how must they be feeling? Because all this time there's hope that she's still alive, right? That she's living somewhere. But this it's kind of putting, but it's almost starting a new horror for them, like not knowing.
It's unfathomable, isn't it, to have gone through this? But it's possible from the sound of things that, they're one step closer. Is this likely, Eric?
I mean, if I was... I mean, I am a parent, and in this situation, I would want to see someone charged.
Yeah,
of course. But you want justice, you want closure.
You want justice, you want all of those things. I mean, why it has taken this long, considering the intensity of it, is just tragic all around.
Well, let's move on now. Twitter could be making businesses pay to use it, according to Thursday's Guardian. Eric, I mean, the appeal of Twitter partly is that, firstly, it's so mad, but it's also free.
Yeah,
we don't have to pay.
Well, this is our new dear leader, Elon Musk, who is taking ownership of our Twitter. He's Canadian. It's only going to be a slight fee.
OK.
Only for commercial users is what he's teased us with.
So the dregs can just carry on using it?
They can use it for free.
Right.
So he's teasing out a few things of what might be his new leadership on the world's, fast, fun... it's the one social media platform I'm most comfortable with.
Yes. I mean, it's a complete cesspit, let's be honest. It's hellish. But we're all addicted, so let's just accept it and move on.
But the nice thing is he did say that Twitter will always be free for the casual users. And I got to say, when I tweet, I'm cash.
You are super cash.
Kick back. I'm just laying there tweeting away. So don't charge me, is what I'm trying to say. Slight cost for governments and commercial, because they might want to make some money, because Twitter famously loses money. But some of the other things he wants to do that were in the article, this is from The Guardian, isn't it? Elon Musk has said he's going to take on and he's going to defeat the spam bots, which I think is what he's going to use his rockets for.
Yeah.
He's going to that. And then he wants to also, though, and I don't like this idea, he wants to authenticate all humans on the platform. And as a verified Twitter user, that little blue tick is my only claim to fame.
Yes.
And if he takes that away from me, I will be furious.
Well, he wants to defeat the spam bots, which has been my ambition ever since I was a child. I don't know what they are, but I want them gone.
I want them gone. I want them gone. But
do you think Elon can save us?
I think I'm happy to look forward to the blue tick, because I've always coveted one. And I just
you don't have one?
I don't have one, I know.
See, there's a real hierarchy there, isn't there?
Andrew, you've got one, don't you, Andrew?
I do have one.
I've got one.
That's not fair.
Can you stop boasting, Eric? This is terrible. Stop bullying.
Yeah. So all right. So Elon Musk. What will Twitter be called now? Would it be the Elon Musk tweeteers?
I think it's too sophisticated.
OK. But also my thing is that he says that Twitter was only niche, and he would want a much bigger percentage of the American population to be on it. So that is worrying, because it's already been called an echo chamber. So now we're just going to have a bigger, a wider chamber of thoughts and persuasive opinions that are just coming from America. So I don't know if it's actually going to be... this freedom of speech that we speak of, I'm not sure that is actually what's going to happen.
But surely, isn't there something about this that is actually quite important and monumental, insofar as Twitter does have a problem with partisan censorship, right, amongst its the CEOs, right? I mean, we know this. Conservative accounts tend to get nuked. Gender-critical feminists tend to get ditched for just stating biological facts. Isn't this a chance? If Elon Musk is right about what he's saying, if he's being honest, he just wants to come in and preserve the notion of free speech, isn't that to be welcomed?
Well, I mean, it is a private platform that has a right to have whoever they want to have on it. And they wanted to get rid of people like Donald Trump, who tried to lead a seditious attack against the American democracy.
In your view?
Well, in my view, and his supporters would have been charged now with sedition. And so they decided not to have them on their platform, and that was their right to do. It's different than the government-regulated free speech, which is a different argument.
Even if you're not a Trump supporter, which I'm not, the idea of the world's de facto public square ditching the sitting president. I mean, that is in the public interest, the things he's got to say, right? Isn't that slightly concerning to you?
I think if it's a company that is based in the United States and having a person on there who, fomented an insurrection, it's their right not to have him on that platform.
But that's the argument, isn't it? Do you think he fomented that insurrection, Sajeela?
I think that this idea of whatever, free speech is there's always going to be a bias. So as much as we're saying that, yes, the CEOs are kind of doing their own agenda, but what's to say that Elon Musk won't have his own agenda? I mean, I'd like to think that he will let everybody, every single person, and there aren't going to be like this kind of very polarised echo chambers that we have now, but I don't think it's going to be any different, in all honesty.
Maybe not.
I'd like to think it would be, but I don't think it will.
Yeah, well, we shall see. Time will tell. On to Thursday's Metro next. Another comedian attacked on stage. This is becoming a bit of a worrying trend.
Yeah, no, this is becoming
It's not Will Smith this time, right?
No, so this time it's Dave Chappelle attacked on stage at Netflix is a joke show.
That's the name of the show.
Yeah, it's a festival. Basically, a man tackled him to the floor. A man called Jamie Foxx rushed over to help him. Dave Chappelle was attacked by a man 25.
So a young man,
a young guy, and he went up, and I shouldn't laugh, but it's not funny. He took a knife up onto stage. So this is serious stuff. And now, what do you do with a knife? You think, I'm going to take a knife into this venue. Where should I hide it? Should I put it in my belt buckle? Should I put it inside my chest? Should I put it in my rucksack? No, I'll get a fake gun and hide it in the fake gun, because that's the way to hide a weapon, isn't it?
So he was trying to intimidate, clearly.
Yeah, in America, that is the way to hide your
I know, because the gun is not so...
guns, they'll never think to look for a knife.
I know, but they're so crazy.
Does this kind of make us nervous as comedians? Insofar as, do you remember after Will Smith slapped Chris Rock? And a lot of people were saying, this kind of gives the green light, that if you find something offensive on stage, you can hop up there and you can commit an act of physical violence against the comedian. It's happened before. It's happened to Jim Jeffries. It's happened to Jerry Sadowitz. Are you, as comedians, slightly nervous it could happen to you?
No, because this has been happening before this happened. I infamously was in an Edinburgh winning show, and I as a plant, which is when I see these stories, I always think, are they a plant? Is this like all set up? And people got so believed what I was doing that I was the real person, and they would get up to try and hit me, and I'm like, whoa, I haven't bought up into this. I thought I was just doing this like as a little role.
Yes.
And they were getting violent. I've also had pint glasses thrown at me on stage by city men, because they felt emasculated because I tore them a new one, because I'm very good at that. And
so they were offended?
Yeah, they were offended. And I remember having to carry on. My knee was bleeding because the glass smashed and hit my knee. Yeah, my knee was bleeding. I had to carry on. And it was like, we're not paid enough to deal with this. And there's been numerous occasions, a woman like drunk wants to come up on stage and smash her face
This to me really bothers me, because the role of the court jester, the fool, has always been to be protected. We can say what we want and the king won't chop our head off, right? That's the old traditional rule of the clown, yeah? It sounds like if the audience are taking it into their own hands, this rule no longer applies.
Yeah, but it has been happening. I guess the Will Smith incident is probably, it was one of the world's biggest platforms, the Oscars. And so seeing that happen, if that does empower people to not realise that, the whole point of the comedian is to tease things out, say things controversial, and push boundaries. The answer to that is not violence.
It certainly isn't. I would say violence is a terrible form of comedy criticism.
Yes.
But just to say, it happened to me in Edinburgh about 10, 12 years ago. I was doing a show at Edinburgh. Someone stood up, threw a pint of a beer in my face because they were so offended. It had been filmed, it went viral, and that sold out the rest of my run. So that was brilliant.
That's
so it
great.
can be quite helpful.
Yeah, it can be helpful, yeah.
I mean, anyway, the problem with that is then people started thinking that was my thing. I had people come to the show saying, we're going to throw beer at you. I'm like, that's not my shtick. That's not what I do. I tell jokes.
You'd want like a rosé or something, right?
Let's move on now to Thursday's Guardian and radical plans for changes in the NHS. Eric, I wouldn't have expected... I don't connect radical with the NHS.
Well, no. These plans I don't think are being drawn up. They're drawn up for the NHS, not by the NHS, which I think is the main difference here. We only know about these things because of freedom of information request, because we still have a bit of free press somewhere in the UK. It's a task force appointed by Boris Johnson to generate ideas for supposedly cutting red tape post-Brexit. But this discussion was made up of drug and healthcare companies working with government advisors in number 10.
So GlaxoSmithKline conglomerates, this kind of...
Johnson & Johnson,
okay.
all the good guys. Some of the ideas, genuine ideas, I'm not joking here, that they came up with was to make it easier for companies to get patient data during startups. So that's a good, because we can always trust private companies with our medical data.
We absolutely can, they're saints.
And to incentivize nurses to speed up clinical trials.
Okay, so
what could possibly go wrong?
I mean, this
with
feeds
that?
into this ongoing thing about, you know, the privatisation by stealth of the NHS. That's often the accusation that comes from people on the left. But there is an issue with bureaucracy, isn't there, Sajeela, within the NHS? I mean, things do get slowed down. It could do with a bit of tightening up, couldn't it?
It could. I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about the NHS because I've literally saved my life and, you know, done so many amazing things. But there is, and I think a lot of medical staff that I've come across when I speak to them, they want to do their job. They just want to, you know, they want to help people, they want to heal, but they get stuck in bureaucracy, they get stuck in red tape, they get stuck in actually paperwork. Now, the thing in terms of like even things like donor cards, and you know, if you have that, then my mum won't. She just keeps tearing them up. She just wouldn't let me carry one.
Right.
And she goes, no. You know what they're going to do? They're going to need a heart for someone famous, and they'll take your heart. And I'm like, but what? Why? That, you know, I'll have to be dead. She goes, no, they'll just turn the machine off because they'll need that heart, and they'll just turn the machine on. And I'm like, wow, okay. And so
she sounds fantastic.
Yeah, she's great. She's great. She's great. She
Not
really
at
is
all
great.
paranoid. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on to another story now, because this is related. This is in Thursday's Guardian. Subject close to my heart: the HRT shortage. Back again, Sajeela.
Yeah, it's back
problems.
again. So there is a shortage of HRT, and I did manage to catch a tail end of the. So let me just read the headline: Scottish medicines body to reassess menopause drug amid HRT shortage. Now, the other day, Davina McCall had a documentary which highlights the benefits and postcode lottery of previously rejected Utrogestin. Right.
Yes.
Now, this is a more natural. Identical micronized proestrogen, which you know women could take. So I looked at what HRT was made of. Now I'm not an HRT. I've chosen that's not the path I'm going to be taking. And HRT is made of urine of pregnant horses and other synthetic hormones. See, that definitely tells me I don't want to take it.
Well, if it works...
I don't want like...
Wow.
What is it called? Is it called golden showers on me?
But Sajeela, in all seriousness, though, irrespective of how it is created, it does... it's really important to protect women from heart disease, from osteoporosis, from stroke.
Yeah.
So it's terribly,
it's literally saving lives because women are dying because of... And I don't think this is because women aren't allowed to talk about it. You know, it's such a taboo subject.
Is that right? Is the menopause, is HRT still a taboo, do you think?
It's still taboo. Like, even, you know, within my circle of friends, nobody really talks about it. Like, I talked on the show earlier before, that there's a thing called the perimenopause. And now, when I was growing up, I had a trainer bra before I could have a real bra. And it's like, it's a trainee kind of menopause before you get to the big menopause. And I didn't know about it, and I had to be told about it. And at my age, why don't I know about this? So these are things that women aren't talking about.
Are you talking about the menopause, Matt?
Well, you've put me off HRT. I'm going to stop taking it. First off, I mean, but I can't get my wife to stop talking about the menopause. So she's on the opposite side of that scale. She brings it up anytime that she can. So, which is great. I think it is great. No, that is great. Because it brings it out into the open. I mean, I'm not sure about taking medical advice from the celebrity side of things. I'm always wary of that.
No, but if there is a taboo, then maybe Davina McCall doing this kind of thing.
I think she did a good job, actually.
That raises the profile of this.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, that's the end of part 2 now. So coming up after the break, we have got speeding drivers, magical stone circles, and the mysteries of the universe. Yes, the headliners are going to get all metaphysical in just one moment. Do not go anywhere.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle. And with me today are my favourite of all the headliners. I can say that because the others are not here.
Yes.
That's Sajeela Kershi and Eric McElroy. So, at last, an opening date for the next tube line, and it's only taken 3 years, Eric. This is in Thursday's Times, I believe.
Yes, the headline, at last, Crossrail's Elizabeth line has an opening date, and it is the 24th of May, just in time for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, which is very nice. I do like this, that it does clarify in the article that once open, the whole line will adopt the new name in honour of the Queen.
Right.
Which was helpful, because before that I was like, Elizabeth, who are they named? Which Elizabeth? Is this the Elizabeth Hurley line? I mean, she deserves a train line.
She absolutely
I think she's
does.
royalty. She's incredible. It's only 3 years, 5 months late, and only £4 billion over budget. So right on target.
You're such a Grinch about this. Is quite a good thing, isn't it, that we get this extra line?
Yeah, but I mean, at the Elizabeth line, I mean, I can't see the Queen getting a one-day travel card.
Why not? She's a pensioner. She gets it for free.
Oh, she gets it. I don't think you get.
She's been. I don't think they should, because they're saying that they want her to come to the grand opening.
Yes.
And I think that she's beyond having to take public transport. I mean, hasn't the woman suffered enough?
Well, also, she's got the gold carriages with the horses.
She'll have her own carriage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she's not going to slum it with the rest of us. But it's nice to have a line named after her. I think that's a very positive
That
thing.
is nice.
Yeah, that's very sweet, I think. Let's move on. Thursday's Independent next. And criticisms of Prince William and Kate's expensive Jamaica visit. Sajeela, you've got this one.
Yeah, so staying with the royal family. Jamaican campaign has criticised the £41,000 cost of Prince William and Kate's visit and state dinner. I didn't realise it was only a 2-day visit, which does seem quite expensive for £41,000. And within that, it included a £20,000 which was allocated for the lavish state dinner, which just lasted a few hours. £20,000 for a lavish dinner?
No.
What are you eating in this dinner?
Do you know what, though? I mean, this article also says that when Barack Obama visited
Oh,
Jamaica,
yeah, that's true. That was something million. Yeah, million.
So, in other words, comparatively, these
The
royals,
came
they're
cheap.
plebs, aren't they?
The royals came cheap. But I would imagine that Barack Obama was more popular then when he was president than
I don't know.
Yeah, but maybe in terms of like really, really famous people, Barack Obama's got a blue tick. And they haven't.
You're not going to let this blue tick thing go, are you?
I'm not going to let the blue
Very
tick go.
upset about not
But
having
I don't think they've got. And I think Andrew, well, he'd have been blocked by now, wouldn't he?
Probably,
Yeah.
kicked off. What do you think, Eric? Do you think, I mean, there's a lot of attention being drawn towards this visit, and there's lots of debates surrounding reparations and this kind of thing. I mean, what do you think about that?
Oh, I think that's great. I think we're opening up parts of history that have not been really discussed or talked about, and it's looking at legacies that should be re-examined. And I think that makes perfect sense.
And do you think that's where the criticism is coming from here about the money? Because, you know, they didn't criticise Barack Obama, but they are criticising the family that are connected to the colonialism here.
Well, I mean, I think all of these things, they kind of, because they do a balance of we're not spending money on COVID recovery, we're spending money on this. But I mean, every government makes those choices. I mean, I think state visits are also important as an idea as well. So I think, you know, any government is fair to be criticized, but because and ultimately governments make decisions, and if they want to spend the money on something, they will.
But the country's also being, they're removing the Queen as
head of state. Exactly,
And
yes.
I think that, oh God, sadly, I think that's because they don't want Charles. I think that's more, it's not about the Queen. I think they know that the Queen's,
No, she's very popular.
Yeah, she's very popular.
Globally.
Yeah, globally she's popular. Everybody loves her. And actually, when, and she will go. People have got to face that. When she does go, I don't think the world wants, perhaps that's where the royal family kind of will end, because the Queen has always been the Queen. Everybody loves her.
And Charles, not so much?
Not so much.
He's not box office. OK, well, next we move on to a story about the end of everything. That is definitely worth a headline, Eric. I think this doom-mongering comes from Thursday's Independent, I believe.
Yes, it does. The universe could stop expanding, contract, collapse on itself remarkably soon,
OK,
according to this story.
explain this to me, because I'm not what are they called?
Physicist?
That's the word.
Yeah,
I'm not one of those.
An astronomer?
I failed GCSE science. I have absolutely no clue. But the universe is expanding. Now they're saying it's going to, start going in the other direction until we just become one atom. We have a big crunch instead of a big bang.
You've stolen my punchline, I was going to say as well. Well,
that's not the punchline, that's what it's called.
Is that they're calling it? I just thought I made up the big crunch.
No, they're calling it the big crunch.
I absorbed it through osmosis of reading the story. Yes, that's the thing. If you thought that the war in Ukraine was bad, if you thought that the energy crisis was bad, if you thought the living standards were bad, the universe is collapsing relatively soon. And they gave us a date 100 million years from now.
I mean, that's like next weekend, practically in cosmic terms.
But basically, there is this dark energy that is out there, and they don't know what it's called. I think they've named it Donald Trump. But no, it's called...
Had to get that dig in.
I gotta get it in there. Quintessence is what it's called.
Quintessence.
And they don't quite know what it is. Even Albert Einstein was kind of wondering what it is. And it's going to possibly start retracting the expansion that's been happening in the universe. And in 100 million years from now, it's going to start pulling things back.
And then where do we go in 100 million years when the universe is... Can we skip to another one?
Well, you can get onto the Elizabeth line,
yes,
and you get to the other side of London.
Well, that sounds fine. As long as we've made preparations, we can avoid this catastrophe. What do you think? Are you scared about the end of the universe?
No, I just think it's like, I don't know. Maybe the universe has heard about the cost of living, and I don't know, and has become a bit bulimic, and maybe that's why it's going to be getting smaller and smaller, because it's just like retching on itself.
I mean, this getting smaller and smaller. Does that mean that? Anyway, look, we're not scientists, clearly.
Yeah, we're not.
We don't have a clue what we're talking about.
Guys, we're not. We don't know anything about it.
But if does time run backwards as well when it contracts? Because if that's the case, then I could do with being a couple of decades younger.
Yeah, I'll go for that.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Anyway, on to Thursday's Telegraph, and a chap with a rather famous ancestor who is calling for what he calls the denazification of Ukraine. Sajila, what's all this about?
Yeah, so Tolstoy's great-great-grandson, both of his...
Tolstoy.
Yes,
him of War and Peace
pronunciation strikes again.
War and Peace, Anna Karenina, that guy, that dude.
Yeah, that dude. War and Peace. I do know that War and Peace, though. Great-grandson, both of his ancestors slaughtering British troops in Crimea. So Peter?
Yes, Peter Tolstoy.
Peter, yes, I was just trying to check on Peter. So he's a politician and descendant of the War and Peace novelist, and he's praising the Ukrainian war and repeat calls for denazification, which is interesting because he said that he boasted how his great-great-grandfather slaughtered the British and French troops. However, he did...
he was in the Crimean War,
He did do the Crimean War, but he wasn't necessarily pro-war, because I think he was kind of...
he was a pacifist.
He was a pacifist.
Famously.
Yeah, exactly. And I have written it somewhere, but I can't remember what.
Do you know what it might be, Sajila? So it's this guy, his great-great-great-grandson. He is apparently, according to this, a propagandist for Vladimir Putin. Might be related to his opinion of his great-great-grandfather in the Crimean War? I don't know. Eric, am I being cynical?
It just shows you your great-great-grandchildren always let you down.
They do.
They do.
I don't think he's a very nice man. He's open. It says in here that this gentleman, Peter, is openly anti-Semitic and does frequent homophobic statements.
I mean, Tolstoy must
52.
be turning in his grave.
Oh, God, turning in his grave, and that's probably why the planet's going smaller. The universe
is the dark energy.
Yeah, dark energy.
It all comes back to that. Well, look, on to this fascinating article. This is in Thursday's Guardian. This is about Stonehenge. Now, I'm a bit of a fan of Stonehenge. Are you, Sajila? Are you a fan?
I did go to is it solstice?
The solstice.
Solstice.
You went to one of those hippie celebrations?
Yeah, I did.
Did you dance around naked, covered in woad?
No, I went night clubbing. It was a bit like worse for wear. Yeah, and then we all ended up there, and then we missed the sunset because we fell asleep.
Well, that's what too many baby shams will do for you.
Yeah, that was it.
You have to pace yourself, Sajid.
I know. I'm getting old now,
But what is this story, then? What's happening at Stonehenge?
So the Stonehenge exhibition explores parallels with Japanese stone circles. So there's there's similarities in sites. A place, am I pronouncing this? Yeoman?
This is in
Yeah, do you know that's how you pronounce it?
I don't, I'm afraid.
Let's go. It's a J with the little thing at the top. Oh, Yeoman monuments. They were separated by thousands of miles, like the Stonehenge and these Japanese stone circles. And actually, these little things are happening all over, aren't they?
What are you saying to me, Sajida? Because it sounds like you're suggesting that these ancient people, that hundreds of, thousands of miles apart, coming up with similar designs for their stone circles.
Yeah.
Is it aliens? Did they give them the plans? Is that what you're saying to me?
I just think that there's no such thing as an original idea, and someone did Stonehenge, and someone nicked the idea and did it in Japan.
Tell me, Eric, aliens is the only possible explanation.
Well, the other possible explanation is that this was a couple thousand years ago, and there wasn't anything else to do but put up stones and make circles, because it's one of the only shapes they do.
They could have put them in an octagon.
There was no TikTok, there was no Snapchat, there was no GB News. What are you going to do with your day but build
but
stone
the circular
circles?
thing is very coincidental, I think.
What other shapes do they know?
Triangles. For the pyramids.
Well, we can pull
But the
shapes.
circle and the
We can pull
moon is
shapes.
round. They'd see the moon. There's nothing else to do.
I prefer the alien theory. It's much more
it would be nice,
plausible,
but-
as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, it is.
That's what I want to believe. Anyway, now on to Thursday's Times and a story of some hypocrisy here from a police and crime commissioner. Eric, you've got the details on this one.
This is my favourite story. I'm so glad I caught this one. Caroline Henry from Nottinghamshire. She is the police and crime commissioner there, who has been pledged to crack down on people speeding.
Good for her.
But has been caught 5 times in the last 12 weeks speeding herself.
Well,
now,
she's an expert then. She can deal with it.
She was testing the speed cameras, Andrew. How else can you know if they're working? And if you're going to get on people for speeding, you need to know what the sensation is like so that you can help them get off of it.
Right.
themselves.
So you're saying this is a benevolent person. There's no hypocrisy whatsoever.
She has apologized for this, which is surprising because I thought she would have said she wants to wait until the Sue Gray report is released before she admits any wrongdoing.
That would make sense. Schadenfreude here, Sajida.
Absolutely. But, she was caught breaking a 30-mile-per-hour limit 5 times within 12 weeks. And I kind of feel for a little bit, because 30 miles seems really slow. I'm not even a driver, but somebody else is driving 30 miles. I'm like, come on, speed it up, speed it up.
Yeah. She was pushing it. She went 38 miles an hour once.
Oh,
That's
no,
a speed
not
demon.
38. 32 I could have let go, but not 38.
No way. Let's move on to Thursday's Telegraph. Might school examinations be moving online?
OK,
Gina, what do you think?
so Ofquel to trial digital testing after pandemic exposed vulnerabilities in current pen and paper system. How have they only just realised that there's vulnerabilities in pen and paper system? And I, for one, who found exams. So basically, exams are now going to be done online.
Yep.
And I think that's a great thing, because I don't know about you, but I hated doing exams in horrible halls. You'd go into a gym and you sat on your little table with your pencils.
You can't cheat. That's the problem.
You can't cheat. There was, and you couldn't even take calculators. I think we had logarithm books. What the hell was a logarithm book?
But
I never used it ever again.
Do you trust, if you move everything online, they're going to be Googling every other answer,
Well,
aren't
they're not
they?
saying, I mean, this is just, they're
but I think
testing
you'd
this,
have to
a
have
trial.
someone there.
This is all about a trial, so it's not happening yet. But they haven't said where you would be online, so they might put you in little cubicles and booths and things to do.
Maybe. OK, well, look, let's go to this last story we've got now about the hand of God, or his shirt. Anyway, that sounds very dramatic. This is in Thursday's Metro, Eric.
Yes, the Hand of God shirt worn by Diego Maradona has been sold for over £7 million at auction. It was famously swapped with one of the players on the other team, Steve Hodge, who's had it all of this time. And you know what? I had an extra $7 million lying around. I thought, I need a new shirt.
You missed it.
I bought it.
Oh, you bought it? It was you?
It was you. It was me.
Why aren't you wearing it tonight? Why are you wearing that thing?
Well, I didn't want to show off. I wanted to be a surprise, and I'm not going to wear it out in public. I mean, would you wear that shirt in public? You get mugged.
7 million. I hope they washed it. What do you think?
That's what I was
Sophia?
thinking. I don't buy second-hand clothes because I think it's all the germs. Do you know what I mean? I don't want sweaty.
But isn't he he's the hand of God footballer, right?
Yeah.
One of the best ever, but he also did cheat. Do you really want a memento of that?
But
Not
he cheated
£7
against
million
England, so it's fine.
Is that all right, is it?
I'm going to get in trouble for that.
No, that's a form of reparations, isn't it? You can
Yes,
cheat at football
exactly. It's a fighting against the empire.
English. All right, well, 7 million still strikes me as quite a lot for a shirt, if I'm honest.
I think there's other things we could spend 7 million on.
I would have thought so. Anyway, well, listen, that is all we have time for tonight. I want to thank my guests, Sajila Kershi and Eric McElroy, and remind you that Headliners will be back tomorrow night and indeed every single night here on GB News. And by the way, if comedy is your thing, which I'm sure it is, please do not miss GB News' brand new comedy panel show. That's called Ministry of Offence, which is on every Saturday at 8 p.m. And I'm going to be back on Sunday for Free Speech Nation. That's Sunday at 7 p.m. So I hope to see you there. And we'll see you here tomorrow at 11 o'clock for Headliners. Have a good night. Goodbye.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and every weekday we bring you The Briefing live from 9:30 a.m. The stories, analysis and live debate that you need to hear.
Quite right, Tom, of course.
Was this something that had been considered at all?
Difficult to answer.
Gas-guzzling helicopters circling. Noise is being made here. Joe Biden walking out. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, Monday to Friday, 9:30 a.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Tonight on Farage, you thought you'd heard the last of Partygate, now it's Beergate, and Sir Keir Starmer being very evasive indeed. What does it all mean? Do you care? Are they all as bad as each other? We'll look at tomorrow's local elections taking place right across the length and breadth of the United Kingdom. What would it all mean for the party leaders? And joining me on Talking Pint, an American journalist who exposed Hunter Biden only to be shut down by the giants of Silicon Valley. We'll talk about that, and could Elon Musk be a saviour? But before all of that, let's get the news.
Good evening, I'm Tamsin Roberts in the GB newsroom. Boris Johnson says he's confident he has the right agenda for the country as he faced questions over the cost of living. The Prime Minister insists the UK is better placed than it was during the economic crises of the 80s and 90s. It says the cost of our food shop went up 3.5% last month, according to the latest figures from the British Retail Consortium.
The best future for the country is get through the tough patch that we have now, support people in any way that we can. But remember, this is we're now seeing a lot of employment and people in high-wage, high-skilled jobs. That's a much better position to be in than we were in the 1980s or 1990s.